here's an interesting possibility, and we'll be talking about this in the weeks and months to come. You have heard me talk about Canadian Memorial United Church of Canada up in Vancouver. Bruce Sanguin, who is into evolutionary Christianity, he and I have been in conversation now for probably, more than a year. I'll be preaching up there in the spring for them. We've been talking about becoming sister churches because they are very much on the same path we are. How can we learn from each other practices? And at the same time, Olivier Benjamin at Bet Olive Contemplative Synagogue in Seattle would also like to sister with us. So we have the opportunity here to go visit other sister churches and work together to say, how do we help one another on this frothy edge of change in our world that's so important? Now, we couldn't claim to be an evolving church and do my book without talking something about Integral Institute. You've heard me talk about it. This is the arm. Ken Wilber, you've heard me talk about Ken Wilber. He is kind of the patron saint of the integral perspective. He has my book. He hasn't read it yet, so I haven't been trashed. But hopefully something good will come out of this. Okay, next one. This summer, at the end of July, I was invited to come to the Integral Theory Conference down in the Bay Area, and I gave a workshop on integral church. Now, it was a fairly small group because, how should I say, the influence of Wilber is primarily Buddhist. So the Christian contingent within the integral movement is still very small. And really, there's probably a dozen of us that represent Christianity within this larger movement. What is very exciting was that this was the second International Theory Conference that they have had at JFK University. They are actively building an academic discipline around integral theory. They have a program in integral theory at JFK University, and they have more applicants than they can handle, especially young folks. Okay? So we showed up there, and not yet. The other one that's really fun, this one was just quite amazing. They put me on a spirituality panel talking about something about spirituality. I'm not even sure what it was. But what was great is that there are a handful of luminaries, if you will, within the integral movement. A number of you are signed up today for, what is it, Beyond Awakening. It's a program it's a telephone call with like 15,000 people. And they've brought all the big guns, okay, to talk about spirituality in this program. Well, here I am sitting on this panel with all the big guns. So there's what? I mean, Diane Hamilton, Terry Patton, Rabbi Mark Gaffney, all these people that, if you're in the integral movement, you know them. And then there's Tom. It was quite interesting sitting down here. So we got some traction. We showed up with probably a lot more credibility than we really have. But we got our voice out there in a way that gave us a different kind of legitimacy. All right, so when we look at integral spirituality, integral Christianity, this is still within the Integral Institute. Okay, next one. Okay, that really is a parrot on her head. Okay, this is one of the folks I met at the theory conferences, Lynn Feldman. She is just about ready to be ordained as the first integral minister, and they are starting an ordination program in integral ministry in New York through a group called One Spirit. Yes, I think that's just part of her. No. No, actually not. Here's an absurdly smart young man by the name of Dustin DePerna. I'm just reading his book, Developmental Religious Pluralism. It actually is really quite good. He is in the midst of creating the second annual Convocation of World Religious Leaders. He's in his 20s. He's doing his master's at Harvard, and he's got his first book out. Anyway, he is working quite remarkably on exactly what my book is about. It asks the question, how do we walk and create a place where folks can evolve individually into wider ways of understanding, deeper levels of compassion? He's doing it on a more international level. David Reardon, who was a producer at Disney, is now the director of the Future of Christianity within Integral Institute. We will also show up on their radar screen, probably with an interview. Mark Gaffney, a rabbi and director of Integral Life Spiritual Center, one of the luminaries on the panel that I connected with. Now, a number of you will remember our friend John Foreman, who is now studying to be an an Episcopal priest, was one of the founders of Integral Institute. So you were here, what was it, 3-4 years ago that John was here? And gave a presentation. And then finally, Pacific Integral, who we know because they were the folks that came and interviewed us.